Welcome to How Do They Afford That, the podcast that peeks into the financial lives of everyday Australians. I'm Michael Thompson. I'm a writer and the co-host of the Fear and Greed Business Podcast. And as always, I'm with Canna Campbell, financial planner, founder of Sugar Mama TV, the financial literacy platform covering YouTube, podcasts like this one, books, Instagram, and more. Canna, I feel like I have to ask you because we are roughly halfway through February, and we talked a couple of weeks ago about frugal February. How frugal have you been?
I have been exposed, Michael.
Oh, okay. This sounds
scandalous.
Scandalous is probably the safest word that I can use there. Please go on.
So I have been telling myself I'm frugal, I'm on a tight budget, I've cut all the fat. And this challenge of frugal February has really made me realize how many toxic, sneaky, naughty habits, justifications, excuses I have going on. And my frugal February account is looking pretty fat to the point where I'm actually embarrassed. So this has actually been really good for me. It's been recalibrating, resetting, regrounding. If regrounding is actually a word, I may have just manifested that word.
It sounds good. The best part about this, though, is the fact that frugal February for you is very, very public because you do it through the podcast, you do it through your social media, through your Instagram and everything, which is very public. And it means that you are held to account in a way that I am not held to account, which means that my frugal February fails can kind of slip by unnoticed.
You can just let them drift under the radar. So I think you need to join in and do frugal February with me.
I'm trying. I really am. But it feels like I don't think I went into it with the right attitude. And this probably
mindset is everything.
Yeah. And this kind of leads probably into what we're going to do in a few weeks' time with manifesting March and everything. I manifested the wrong energy. Is that something that you can do? Am I
yes,
just making this up as I go?
No, you can have, that's called a self-sabotaging manifestation.
Well, anyway, it resulted in me spending a lot of money. And it feels like I have not been true to the frugal February way.
Well, look, frugal February is all about forgiveness. It's like being washed of your financial sins as you rebuild from ground zero. So I would like to encourage and welcome you and everyone to join in frugal February, even though we're halfway through.
This is starting to sound an awful lot like a cult.
I know. I really, sometimes I actually think I start to lose it.
Do we call you our supreme leader yet? Well, anyway, look, we have a lot to talk about today, and I'm sure we'll actually come back to a few of these themes about being frugal throughout it because I want to talk to you about budgeting. And we have talked about budgeting in the past, but this is a really important time to be coming back to it because there are a lot of financial headwinds hitting people, hitting everybody at the moment. And one of those big ones is interest rates that just kind of keep on rising. And so it's probably the perfect time to go, all right, how do we actually afford to live in a house anymore? How do you afford your home loan? Kind of how do you kind of get by week by week?
Keep your head above water.
Absolutely. And so we'll go through that kind of step by step because you have a fantastic model for budgeting that kind of gives a little bit of assurance that things will be okay as long as you put the time into it and actually making it work. But before we do that, need to say that as you're listening, what we are talking about today is always general in nature. It's never personal, investment, strategic, or product advice. It is purely for financial education purposes only.
That's right, Michael. Should you ever hear something we're talking about and think, oh, should I be doing that? Is that the right idea or product or strategy for me? That is when you must go and talk to a financial planner because a financial planner can really peel back the layers and look into the intricacies and details as to what's going on in your life, what your goals are, and what your deadlines are for those goals and dreams. So always speak to a financial planner and ask them for financial planning advice after listening to this podcast, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. This is kind of just a starting point.
Yeah,
some ideas.
It's education, it's inspiration, it's empowerment.
This is becoming very spiritual.
I'm really sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Which is why I'm looking forward to the Manifesting March episode that we'll probably do in a couple of weeks because I am going to set you the challenge of converting the skeptic, i.e. me, into your cult.
I accept that challenge with open, abundant, prosperous arms.
That is fantastic. What a way to get started. Interest rates are just through the roof.
When are
right
they
now.
going to stop?
Yeah, it is just extraordinary. And it just feels like for the last year or so, it's just been kind of hit after hit after hit after hit. And people are really hurting. And you can see that now. And you've got kind of in recent weeks, you've had bank bosses kind of actually warning that we're in the danger zone now for people, particularly people who have kind of borrowed to their maximum. Which is really quite frightening. And so one of our most popular episodes that we have done previously is all about budgeting. And I thought that particularly now with rates rising, and we've got also a lot of people who fixed their home loans at low rates, kind of rolling off those low rate fixed loans onto higher variable rate loans.
Significantly higher. If
they are going to be hit hard.
Huge increase.
And so it's probably time for a budget refresher course. And if you've already got a budget that works for you, that is fantastic. But it probably makes sense to just check in and make sure that it is still working. If you haven't got a budget at all, now is the time to get a piece of paper, get a pen, and take a few notes, because this is a really good model. How do you do it? That's probably a pretty broad question to start with, but how do you organize your budget? That's actually no less broad than the first question I asked you.
All right. Well, first of all, the formula that I suggest is a great starting point, and it's like making your own spaghetti bolognese. Everyone has their own recipes and key ingredients that they like. So start with my base and then tweak it and change it to make sure it really does work for you and your situation. But it's a very, very simple model. You simply have 4 bank accounts. And if you want, you can actually just start off with 2 or 3 bank accounts. So the first account is your everyday living account. And this is where your salary would be paid into it. And this covers all your daily, weekly, fortnightly, and monthly expenses. Okay?
And so that is like your home loan.
That would be your home loan. That would be
your rent.
That would be your groceries. That would be your gym membership, your mobile phone, any subscriptions that you might have, your lunch money, your weekend money, even maybe clothing if you buy it on a monthly basis. So it's those short-term expenses.
Okay. In a second, I'll ask you about how you kind of calculate how much that is, because some of those things do vary a fair bit, particularly the groceries.
Well, we'll go through that. Don't worry, I've got you covered.
All right. Account number 2.
Account number 2 is like a financial float account. So this is where we stockpile our finances to help prepare for those slightly irregular and even ad hoc expenses. So you build this account up, and this would be the quarterly, biannual, and annual expenses. So if you pay your council rates or your water rates, it would come from this account. You might have your car rego and CTP coming out of this. If you're paying your electricity and gas on a quarterly basis, it would come out of here. Valentine's Day, anniversaries, friends' birthdays, Christmas presents, those larger ad hoc, irregular, quarterly, biannual, annual expenses come here. So when you get paid, and if you are new to budgeting, I recommend just staying at this model here and stopping here. You would put money into both of these accounts, okay? Now, there is an element, if you want, of emergency money that's attached to account number 2, because you have to, everyone, as we know from listening to our previous podcast, should have emergency money. Now, if you are pretty good with budgeting and you're ready to go to the next level, you'd have the 3rd and 4th accounts. And that is where you would have a lifestyle goal account, where you would have a lifestyle goal that's important to you that you can regularly save up for, such as a holiday savings fund. The 4th account is your financial goal account, which might be something important that you want to save to invest for, perhaps start investing or saving up some money that you were thinking of contributing to superannuation after seeing a financial planner, of course. So you've got the 4 key accounts that you would be regularly contributing to every time you get paid.
Okay, so I've got a number of issues with this, and I have voiced these concerns previously, and I don't think you were particularly happy with me when you found out how many accounts I use, because I just struggle with this definition of, say, your everyday account and your life account, and how you stop those, the money that you're allocating kind of bleeding into each other and being drained by another. So say you're in your everyday account, you have your groceries and your mortgage. And if you just even kind of keep it at those 2 things, and add in a couple of extras that you would also have in there, how do you stop, say, a slight overspend on your groceries, then meaning that you will overdraw your account for your home loan repayment?
This is such a great question. And so the answer is incredibly important. So when you are doing your budget, you round everything up by the nearest $1, $10, or $100. So say, for example, I have Foxtel. And my Foxtel monthly bill is $80. But to play it safe, I actually put it in my budget as $100. So if we have a blowout where a certain regular bill goes over, I've got a very safe buffer in place to help keep that total spending for the month still within that one account. It's incredibly important. Otherwise, if you try and budget to the nearest dollar and overcomplicate your financial situation with multiple accounts and having to do lots of very stressful transfers backwards and forwards from here to there, you're going to drop a ball and something's going to go wrong and you're going to put yourself in a stressful situation. My principle is very much keep it very simple.
It feels like you were trying to be kind of hypothetical about that when you were actually talking about me specifically here, where I had...
Perhaps.
Did you know, because you know how previously I told you that we had 18 bank accounts that we split all of the money into, and one was for kind of insurances, one was for the repayments, one is for kind of gifts and things throughout the year. It feels like that's kind of what you're advising is a bit of a minefield. Did you know... About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I found another account that I didn't even know that I had.
This is my problem. You've got accounts floating around in cyberspace that you have no transparency. It's like juggling 25 balls in the air. And that's why I love 4, because 4 is easy to juggle. You're less likely to drop one.
The best part was I only found it because I was transferring money to an account that I didn't even know where it was. And my wife, Sian, said, where is that money going? I said, I don't actually know. Let's follow it.
Did you find you had some secret savings stashed away that you never knew about?
Only 2 or 3 weeks worth of money that was supposed to be going towards an expense that suddenly we realized that expense wasn't being paid, and it was because this money was disappearing into an account that we didn't really know existed. So use me as an example of what not to do in this scenario. Okay, so back to these. 4 accounts: everyday, life account, lifestyle goal, financial goal, focusing just briefly on the everyday account still, because that is, as the name suggests, the everyday one. And the real focus today is on trying to find a way to make sure that you can cover rising interest rates, that as the repayments for the home loan is kind of going up, that you're actually able to accommodate it in this budget. So in terms of calculating how much you need in, say, that first everyday account, you are looking at how much your repayments are, and then budgeting as well for potential increases into the future?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of different ways, and it really does depend on your financial situation, because someone may actually not have a goal of wanting to pay off their home loan, particularly if they're intending and moving out of it and turning it into an investment property. So, obviously go get some advice, speak to your accountant, speak to your bank, understand maybe any, additional fees for making extra contributions, particularly if you're on a fixed rate, because there might be some penalties. But look at your budget and go, okay, this is our mortgage repayment, this is our living expenses. You may want to look at paying the maximum mortgage repayment that you can afford within the confines of your budget if your goal is to potentially pay off your home loan as quickly as possible and obviously save time and valuable interest. So that then also helps safeguard you to a certain degree with more interest rate rises, because say, for example, my minimum repayment on my mortgage is $2,500 per month. But after doing my budget, I realize that I can actually afford to pay $3,000 per month towards my mortgage. If there are any new and additional interest rate rises, I still may be within the confines of my $3,000 mortgage repayment. So that can be a great strategy. And this is, again, one of the many benefits that come from budgeting. But if you are looking at your budget and going, this is really tight, I can't afford to put $3,000 per month on my mortgage. I need to stick to what the bank's prescribed so that I don't have to end up in credit card debt because I can't stick to my budget. Because we can only really trim so much with our budgets because we need to live a life and have food and clothing and all the utilities in our life. So this is a great way of looking at it. But having that additional buffer, if you can afford to make extra payments, will help take the stress and pressure off hearing on the radio or reading on the headlines that, there's another interest rate rise.
How do you know how much to actually budget? It's a case of kind of looking back over your expenses of the last, say, 6 months, 1 year.
So this is where a lot of people go wrong. They look back at the last couple of months, which can be very, very misleading and deceptive because that's not a true reflection of your total cost of living. So, and this is the part that probably takes the longest, but it's actually the most informative, and you'll actually most likely find, if you do this properly, where you'll notice the financial leakage in your life. You'll say, oh gosh, I didn't realize I was paying for that. I could probably get rid of that. So it's a very healthy process to go through. But
leakage sounds very messy.
It is messy. It's financially messy. As I said, I like to keep it very simple, stupid, because when it's easy to do your budget, you will want to come back to it and check it because it's quick and easy to do. And you will quickly and easily see and feel the results from doing your budget. You'll see that your debts are coming down. You'll see that your savings are building up. You'll see that you're sticking to your budget, which feels great. So this is all about actually making life easier for yourself.
Okay, so you're busting out your credit card statements, your bank account statements, and everything from the last year. And you are getting, say, a spreadsheet, for example, or even just a piece of paper and a pen.
Even just a piece of paper and a pen. I will do either or, depending on the where I'm sitting in my home at the time and how much time I've got. But obviously putting an Excel spreadsheet is great because it can quickly and easily add it up, and you can easily adjust it and tweak it where you've got to start again with a piece of paper and pen. But whatever works best for you, the best way you learn. And you would go through and go, okay, all right, that's a weekly expense, that's a daily expense. And you can literally allocate it if you want in just the two simple accounts so that you know the gym memberships, the groceries, you can average it out to see how much really you do spend. But then also you can, if you want to take it next level, you can also look at your calendar and look forward and go, well, look, we've got a trip to Fiji. We need to make sure we allocate a regular savings plan, and that Fiji holiday is happening in 5 months' time, so we really need to prioritize that regular savings plan to help have spending money and know that we're getting on the plane with everything paid off for so we can switch off and enjoy it. You might look at your diary and go, oh, it's, Easter coming up. We might have a weekend away, or it might be school holidays. So you can actually, if you want, take it another level and be really proactive and go look at not only the year that's just happened, but the year ahead and factor that so that you actually are correctly preparing and honouring all the things that are important to you in your life.
And so it is important then to be looking at more than just a couple of months, because you would miss then some of those big annual things potentially, like a holiday or like something like your car registration, which typically only happens once a year. And if you're only looking at the last 3 months or so, you may well miss that entirely and then be hit by this massive bill that you haven't actually budgeted for.
Absolutely. That's why I say it's misleading and a little bit deceptive and you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yep.
So do it properly, do it right. And then you've actually got the blueprint to work off pretty much for the next 4, 5, 6 years.
So you're writing down, let's say we're just doing it on paper. So you're writing down everything from the last 12 months of, say, every time you've kind of gone into Woolies or Coles or anywhere and spent money on groceries. You're kind of adding that up and averaging it out so that you get kind of your weekly grocery spend.
Exactly.
And then when you're putting that into your budget, you are adding 10% or so, or rounding it up
Round
first.
Round up first and then add 10%.
Yep. So say you're spending $350 a week at the groceries, which would be fantastic if we could get it down to $350 a week.
I'd like that too.
the dream. But you would round that up to, say, maybe
I would call that 400.
400.
Let's play it safe.
Yeah.
And I had a classic example of why this helps and keeps you within your budget. This week, my daughter, who is 3.5, she just started ballet lessons. And every time there's a new expense that comes up, I go to the budget just to check that it's all right, we can afford it, we're not going to have to cut back here or there. And I did that. And then the day before ballet lessons begin, I realized, oh, she can't just go to ballet in her daycare clothes. She's expected to wear an outfit. So no problem, took her to the local ballet shop. $200.
Oh.
And the girl said to me, look, these will only last her a couple of months because she will grow, and also these ballet shoes actually wear out really quickly, so you don't really want her running around the house in this. Now, I came home and obviously it's a beautiful moment. I was like this proud mum watching this little girl prance around the ballet shop. There was no way I was going to tell her, it's Frugal February, we get back in the car, we're going home, you have to wait a month to start ballet.
Yeah, or we're going on Facebook Marketplace and finding a second
and that
hand.
was another option. And I was telling Tom and he was so excited and like, show me the photos. Anyway, I said, the ballet outfit was $200 and I don't think it's going to really last that long. And he sort of looked at me and went, you're kidding me. And this is what parents pay. And And we just got the basics. There were a couple of extra things we chose to say no to, including the $20 hair accessory. But he said, hey, how does that fit in? I said, well, it's fine because we round everything up. So, for example, our grocery, using that example of $350, calling it $400, I know that $200 cost forces me then to stick to the budget and keep it as close to $350 because I've got that buffer in there to help cover me. So it's not so stressful. And of course, not only have I done the buffer with the groceries, I've done the buffer with the home and contents insurance, the buffer with the healthcare, the buffer with the pet insurance. So I've got lots of mini buffers to help me cover those things that just happen in life that we all get hit with.
My challenge with that is, and I don't like sounding so negative because it is a fantastic system, but when your budget is stretched, and we have kind of found this lately in dealing with interest rate rises and just going, okay, we now need to find X amount extra per week to pay the home loan, is that we've had to go and start cutting these buffers. And I don't kind of know then how to come back from that. When is it just about then, and this is kind of getting into probably another episode, is it you just need to increase the amount of money you're earning to try, which is, yeah, sure, I'll just duck out to the money shop and get some more money.
Well, yeah, the answer is actually twofolded. So number one is my advice would be to try and look at a way to earn some extra money, whether it be selling things on Facebook Marketplace or Gumtree, the circular economy, whether it be taking up a bit of extra work or taking on some freelancing work or doing some consulting work. That is definitely a quick fix. The other thing is obviously to go back to your buffers and maybe not be so generous. So maybe you make it 7% or 5%. But the buffers are a safety net.
Okay.
You're not, I guess, being silly or over the top. They're there to protect you because you can budget as much as you like, but life throws us things. Life throws us new opportunities. We want to embrace things that come up. So the buffer is there to help you. So if you need to tone it down or maybe only have a buffer on more variable expenses such as groceries, that might be $400 one week, $320 the next because certain things are on special, you can do that. But I can't stress the importance of buffers and the amount of times I would see with clients who would try and budget to the dollar and they would do this very aggressively, but then they were always having to lean on a credit card for those moments when something went over or there was an additional expense or an opportunity to do something really fun. And it would stress them out and they were literally robbing from Peter to pay Paul. Whereas if you go back, don't stress yourself out and feel guilty. Have a safe buffer in place to help you keep your sanity.
Okay. All right. I've got a few more questions I want to ask about just some of the tools and things that you can use to make this easier, kind of different apps and things that we might be able to use. But we'll do that in a sec. We'll come back right after this break. Right, Kanna, we're doing a bit of a budget reboot today. It's a very good time to be looking at your budget and just reassessing kind of how much money you need in different accounts to ensure that you can kind of deal with financial headwinds like rising interest rates. I'm trying to get my head around kind of the mechanics of it because I do understand kind of what we've been saying, but it also feels like it can get very messy. And it feels rich for me to say that things can get messy with all of my...
You have 18 bank accounts. That is messy.
Yes.
That is like...
Yeah, by definition, that is extremely messy. So are there any apps that we can be using? Is there anything, because I love a good app.
You love good. Do you have? If I'm thinking you've got 18 bank accounts, I hate to think how many apps you have. Look, there are lots of apps, and from the research I did, Frollo and Beam seems to be the most popular, but they do involve you having to hand over complete transparency because they basically log into your bank accounts and can see how much money you've got and where your money is actually going. So they have to have that complete transparency and visibility so that they can then feed you back. All right, well, you spend this much on food and groceries. You spend this much on entertainment. So there are apps available. But for me personally, I'm all about sitting down, looking at the numbers and doing it yourself and do proactive planning. The issue I have with apps is the horse is already bolted. It's already told you you've blown all that money. Whereas I prefer pre-agreed, upfront, proactive planning that gives you spending boundaries.
Okay.
So because we now have this au pair, we have 3 adults at home and 3 children and 2 large Labrador dogs. So our grocery bill I've looked at, and so I now know that we have a $500 spending boundary on our grocery bill each week.
Yep.
And that keeps me, I know to play in that. Even if we have a certain expense, like I have to buy a certain quality dog food and it comes out of that $500 allowance, I then know, okay, well, then I need to shop a little bit more mindfully and maybe have a bit more frugal or financially friendly meals that week to help make sure that we stay in that spending boundary.
Okay. When we talk about those 4 accounts, the everyday life account, lifestyle goal, financial goal, are they all in different accounts that you can access using an individual kind of card? Or a couple of those, I suppose, the lifestyle goal and the financial goal are really ones that you don't need to access on a day-to-day basis. They're almost your savings accounts.
All right, so this is the beauty of the 4-account system, okay?
We're leaning into this.
It's called practicing le pause, which is the French technique apparently for getting children to sleep through the night. You don't go running in there when you hear them scream and cry. You let them have a go at self-soothing. So this is kind of the same principle, but with your budgeting and your accounts. So your everyday account is the account that you have your linked ATM debit card. Mm-hmm. Okay. So when I go to buy a coffee, which I'm not doing because it's Frugal February, I would use my ATM debit card or my phone and just I can tap. And that's great because I never need to worry about credit card debt. I'm spending my own cold hard-earned cash. Mm-hmm. And the other 3 accounts that I have, and I will admit there's a slight tweak variation for when you have combined finances as a family, but this is the essentially the basic principle. Those other 3 accounts are actually online accounts. And the beauty of that is I don't have to pay monthly account keeping fees, and I do get a little bit of bonus interest along the way to help beef up those accounts. Now, when I need to go and spend, so say, for example, the other day I had my Red Joe and car insurance came through. So I had that money, enough of it, in my second account, which is my life account, my financial float account. Mm-hmm. I then practice the pause, so it makes me responsible. I have to log in, see that account balance, and then go and transfer the $2,500 so I could pay my Red Joe and car CTP. Mm-hmm. So that kind of reminds me, gosh, I need to make sure I really do diligently and proactively rebuild that financial float account so that I'm always got more than enough money that I need to make sure I'm staying safely within my spending playground. And each of those accounts must be nicknamed. So if I don't nickname, I could very easily go, oh, look, I've got $5,000 in my second account, and go and buy something fabulous. No, that's reminding me that it's my stockpile account for those irregular ad hoc accounts, and that keeps me financially sane.
Okay. I know we're running out of time, but I'm not trying to pick holes in it. I'm just trying to figure out where I would put, say, different expenses, because they feel like everyday expenses, but they're also variables. Petrol. Does that go into the everyday because it is an everyday expense and it's the kind of thing that you will have to pay for with a card?
Yes, most definitely. That is account number 1.
Okay. Medical expenses, because you've got kids, we've got kids, and the medical expenses are so unpredictable that 1 week, or we seem to have a lot of kind of bills coming in, but 1 week you might spend nothing and the next week you're spending $500. How on earth do you budget for that?
So that is actually in the account number 1.
Really?
Yeah. So I have 3 children and I have also trips to the vet as well. And also I have regular trips to Chemist Warehouse. And you can easily drop $80 in there very quickly.
Yep.
So I actually have a certain amount each month for a doctor and a chemist trip. So again, obviously there might be a month where there's no child is needing to go to a doctor, or we're not needing to spend as much in the chemist, and that can safely stay in that account, and it might temporarily build that account number 1 up. But yes, that is in there. The last thing you want to be doing is worrying about money when you're going to the doctor.
Yeah.
It's going to make you feel worse.
Yeah. And I think I'm nearly there. I nearly understand how this works, that I just really, my biggest concern is about eating into those expenses, or the money that you've set aside for, say, medical or for petrol, etc., by other things that you either haven't kind of fully budgeted for. So say you get like a $1,000 medical expense, or you've got to drive a longer distance and suddenly your petrol is $100 for the week instead of $50. that you are then going to eat into the other things that are in that account, your home loan, your groceries, etc. But I suppose the key to that is rounding up and then adding on that buffer that you can do that.
Absolutely. And the good thing about doing your budget is it's incredibly informative. So, for example, say I went over on my petrol allowance, okay, and I spent more because I had a weekend away and I did a lot of driving. I then can decide, all right, what is a variable expense in my budget that I can cut back of to help cover that hole there? So, for example, as I said, I might have a vegetarian-based meal to help bring the grocery bill to cover that increase in petrol.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's a membership that I can pause for a month or two that can help cover that gap.
And you're reviewing it all the time, not annually or...
No, not annually.
The look on your face is then the horror at the idea of reviewing your budget annually. What is it, monthly? Is it fortnightly?
Look, there
weekly?
are 3 rules I say. Okay, the first thing is anytime there's a new change, a good change or a bad change. So an interest rate rise, a new ballet lessons. I had to quickly go check our budget. And again, when it's in an Excel spreadsheet and you've done all the work, that was literally a 5-minute job because I've set our budgets up correctly in the first place. Invest time up front and then literally it's a very quick, short, sharp tap in to review it. The other thing is obviously when you might get a pay rise or a promotion, you'd go and look at your budget then. Or even a new goal. You know, you come back from Fiji, you've ticked that box of that family holiday. What's your next financial goal, like from a lifestyle point of view, I should say?
A longer holiday.
A longer holiday or somewhere beyond Fiji. So you go back and go, all right, well, the next holiday is going to be to Hawaii. I'm going to need a little bit more.
For 10 days instead of 7 days.
Exactly. It's going to be more expensive airfare. So you'd factor and go, well, actually, you don't need to save $500 per month. We need to save $800 per month. Any sort of change is the trigger. Then if you feel that your budget's not working for you, if you're feeling that you're having to reach for the credit card or you're having to borrow from Peter to pay Paul, you then need to go back to the budget. That is a red flag. Your budget's not sticking to your budget's too tight, or you're missing things from your budget. That's when you must go back. And then ideally every couple of months, because let's face it, we are being served ads all the time. It is so easy to sign up to a trial for 30 days and, forget that, that actually switched to a paid membership, or think that you desperately needed to be buying this or that. So you do need to check in. And again, as I can't stress enough, spend the time doing it properly the first time. It's very quick and easy to check.
Okay. All right. Look, I'm actually feeling quite inspired by this to go.
Thank you.
To go and see if I can get it down from 18 down to, I don't know, I'm going to aim for, say, 15 accounts.
Maybe 4?
4 accounts. Oh, good.
I really think we could do it.
Okay, all right. That is a lofty goal. We'll try and get there. All right, we've covered a lot. It's been a bit of a bumper episode today, but it's an important topic, and the budget is such a meaty kind of topic to get through. So really, it is a 4-account principle, and it is designed to keep it simple as you possibly can, and not overcomplicated in the way that I have. So your everyday account, your life account, your lifestyle goal account, and your financial goal account. Look back at your expenses over the last year, and if you can as well, look forward as well to see what else that you might have, so that you can kind of average out those costs and see how much you need to be budgeting per week or per month, whatever the frequency is, say, that you might get paid. And then once you've got those figures, round it up to the nearest dollar or $10 or $100, and then add on 10%. And that is the buffer that will give you that kind of freedom, or that comfort. The safety net that you need in case unexpected things crop up, or it's just a little bit more expensive one week than you're actually expecting. Use a card only for the first account, because that's the one that you're going to be kind of using as your daily.
Yes. So when that example I use with my CTP and car rego, I just transferred the money across to my everyday account, and then I could just tap to pay for, when I was getting my car sorted. Apps
are available, but nothing really beats kind of just working it out yourself using a pen and paper or a spreadsheet, which is generally pretty kind of easy to use, and review the numbers. Review them whenever things change, whenever you feel like it's not working for you, or every few months, not every year.
that might be a reason why you've overcomplicated your financial affairs.
I just actually enjoy the horror on your face, which
it's I have to say, when I hear the word 18, it's a real trigger word for me.
That is fantastic. All right, Kanna, it has been a big episode. How do we find you?
The fastest and easiest way to quickly and directly connect with me has got to be Instagram at Sugar Mama TV or at Kanna Campbell Official. And so if you ever have any questions, just shoot me through a DM and I will come back to you as soon as I possibly can.
Excellent. And you can hear me every day with Sean Aylmer on Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. Thank you very much for listening to How Do They Afford That? Remember to hit follow on the podcast and please leave us a review too. We've had some fantastic reviews and comments coming in lately. And
People really like us.
It's really nice to
so
see.
Popular.
It's nice, isn't it? Please keep it coming. Next week, we are talking about resilience, which is a really, really important topic, particularly in this kind of climate with expenses rising, but also when things just come out of nowhere and hit your finances hard. There is a key to resilience, and we're going to get into that one next week. Don't miss it.